The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, thick and official-looking. I remember standing in my driveway, coffee mug in hand, staring at the return address, Sunset Ridge HOA. My stomach dropped. Nothing good ever came from the HOA, but this envelope felt different, heavier, more sinister. I tore it open right there, and the words hit me like a physical blow. Notice of violation and fine assessment. $1 million. $1 million. For what? I scanned the letter frantically, my hands beginning to shake. According to HOA President Patricia Drummond, or as everyone in the neighborhood called her, HOA Karen, I had violated Section 47.3b of the community bylaws by unauthorized construction and establishment of a commercial enterprise on residential property. I stood there, utterly confused. Commercial enterprise? I ran a small home-based consulting business from my office, just like half the neighborhood did since the pandemic. Then I saw it, the photographs attached to the letter. My workshop, the beautiful 600-square-foot workshop I'd built in my backyard 6 months ago. My workshop wasn't a commercial enterprise. It was my sanctuary, where I restored vintage motorcycles as a hobby. I'd been meticulous about following every rule, every regulation. I'd even gone to the HOA meetings, 3 of them, to present my plans. Patricia had been there each time, arms crossed, lips pursed in that permanent scowl she wore like a badge of honor. Denied, she'd said flatly at the last meeting, without even looking at my revised plans. But here's the thing, she didn't have the authority to deny it. I'd done my homework. I'd hired a lawyer to review the HOA bylaws, and according to the governing documents, the HOA board needed a majority vote to deny any construction request. Patricia had acted unilaterally, so I built the workshop anyway, following every county building code to the letter. And now she wanted $1 million. I stormed into my house and called my lawyer, Marcus Chun. He'd helped me buy the property 3 years ago and had become a friend. Marcus, they're insane. $1 million fine? Can they even do this? There was a long pause on the other end. Send me the letter. All of it. And David, don't do anything rash. But rash was exactly what I was feeling. Patricia Drummond had made my life hell since the day I moved in. My grass was too long. Then it was too short. My car was parked improperly in my own driveway. My garbage cans were visible from the street for 12 minutes past the allowed time. She even fined me $500 because my house number wasn't the exact shade of bronze specified in the bylaws. It was oil rub bronze instead of antique bronze. I'd paid that fine to avoid the hassle, and that had been my first mistake. Now she'd escalated to nuclear warfare. That evening, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that $1 million fine, about Patricia's smug face, about losing my home. That's when I remembered something. Something I'd tucked away in the back of my mind 3 years ago when I bought this property. I went to my filing cabinet and pulled out the original property documents. I spread them across my dining room table and started reading. Really reading, not just skimming like I'd done before closing. The property deed, the survey, the easement agreements, and then I found it. My hands started shaking again, but this time from excitement, not fear. According to the original land survey from 1987, my property, all 2.3 acres of it, had existed before the HOA was established in 1992, when a developer created Sunset Ridge Estates. My parcel had been specifically excluded from the HOA because it was already owned by someone else. The developer had purchased the surrounding land, but not mine. But here's where it got interesting. The HOA Community Center, the pool, the playground, and the main entrance with its fancy stone pillars and Sunset Ridge Estate sign, all of it sat on the corner of MY property. A full acre of land that I technically owned, but that the HOA had been using for 33 years. I'd assumed, like everyone else, that the land belonged to the HOA. The previous owner had never mentioned it. Probably didn't even know. But there it was in black and white, an easement agreement that allowed the HOA to use my land for community purposes for a term of 30 years. 30 years. The easement had expired 2 months ago. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I called Marcus at 6 a.m. Marcus, I need you to verify something. And if I'm right about this, I need you to prepare some documents. Fast. 3 days later, I had everything I needed. Marcus had confirmed it with 2 independent surveyors and a real estate attorney who specialized in property law. The land was mine. All of it. The easement had expired, and the HOA had never renewed it, probably because no one in the current board even knew it existed. That Saturday, there was an emergency HOA meeting. Patricia had called it specifically to discuss the David Morrison problem. I wasn't officially invited, but the meetings were open to all residents, so I showed up anyway. The community center was packed. Patricia stood at the front, looking like a general preparing for battle in her crisp white blazer and pearl necklace. She had poster-sized photos of my workshop displayed on easels, each one marked with red circles and arrows like evidence at a crime scene. As you can see, Patricia announced to the crowd, Mr. Morrison has flagrantly violated our community standards. He was explicitly denied permission to build this structure, yet he built it anyway. This is exactly the kind of behavior that will turn Sunset Ridge into a slum. People murmured. Some nodded. I recognized a few neighbors who'd always been friendly, and they looked uncomfortable but didn't speak up. The board has assessed a fine of $1 million, Patricia continued, which may seem extreme, but we must send a message. If Mr. Morrison cannot pay this fine within 30 days, we will place a lien on his property and foreclose. My heart was pounding, but I stayed calm. I raised my hand. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Mr. Morrison, did you wish to grovel? The room fell silent. I stood up slowly, pulling a manila folder from my bag. Actually, Patricia, I'm here to give you notice. I walked in front of the room. Patricia's jaw tightened. I could see the vein throbbing in her temple. Notice of what exactly? She sneered. I opened my folder and pulled out the first document. This is the original property survey from 1987. As you can see, my property predates this HOA by 5 years. I placed it on the table, in front of her. She glanced at it dismissively. So what? You still joined the HOA when you bought the property? Actually, no. I never signed any HOA agreement. The previous owner didn't either. Because my property isn't part of the HOA. It never was. Now I had her attention. The color was draining from her face. I pulled out the second document. This is the easement agreement that allowed the HOA to use a portion of my land for community facilities. Note the term, 30 years, beginning April 1992. Patricia snatched the document, her hands trembling as she read it. That easement expired 2 months ago, I said calmly, which means this community center, the pool, the playground, and your fancy entrance, all of it is on my private property. And you're trespassing. The room erupted. People were talking over each other, some demanding to see the documents, others calling me a liar. Patricia's face had gone from white to crimson. This is ridiculous, she shouted. You can't just, we'll sue you. You'll what, Patricia? Find me another $1 million. I smiled. Here's what's going to happen. You have 30 days to remove all HOA structures from my property. The community center, the pool, everything. If you don't, I'll have them demolished and send you the bill. You're insane. Patricia screeched. This community will never allow it. We'll fight you in court for years. I pulled out the final document, the one that made this whole thing worthwhile. Or, I said, we can negotiate. I'm willing to grant the HOA a new easement to continue using the land. In exchange, you'll dismiss all fines against me, resign from the board, and we'll revise the HOA bylaws to prevent this kind of abuse from ever happening again. The room went completely silent. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. 30 days. I repeated, talk to your lawyers. Check the documents. It's all legal, all verified. Your choice. I walked out of that community center with my head held high, leaving chaos in my wake. The next 4 weeks were tense. The HOA hired 3 different law firms, and all 3 came back with the same conclusion. I was right. The land was mine, and they were indeed trespassing. Patricia tried everything. She organized protests outside my house. She sent me threatening letters. She even called the police, claiming I was harassing her, which backfired spectacularly when the officers saw her standing in my driveway screaming while I watched from my porch, drinking coffee. Finally, with 2 days left before the deadline, I got a call from Marcus. They're ready to negotiate. The final agreement was better than I'd hoped. Patricia resigned, along with 2 board members who'd enabled her reign of terror. All fines against me, including the $1 million monstrosity, were dismissed and expunged from record. The HOA paid me $150,000 for a new 50-year easement, money I used to upgrade the community pool and playground so every family could enjoy them. And most importantly, we rewrote the bylaws to require transparency, limit fine amounts, and establish an appeals process for violations. 6 months later, I was sitting in my workshop, putting the finishing touches on a 1972 Honda CB750, when I heard a knock on the door. It was Sarah Chun, the new HOA president, holding a plate of cookies. "I just wanted to thank you," she said. "The neighborhood is so different now. People actually like living here again." I smiled, wiping grease off my hands. That's all I ever wanted. As I watched her walk back down my driveway, past the community center that now felt truly communal, I thought about that $1 million fine. Patricia had tried to destroy me, but instead, she'd handed me the key to fixing an entire neighborhood. Sometimes karma doesn't just come back around. Sometimes you have to deliver it yourself, with legal documents and property surveys in hand. And my workshop? It's still standing, beautiful and completely legal, on land that's unquestionably mine.